Thank you, Bas, for agreeing to speak to me today. As a Green MEP with a lot of experience, I need your help in kind of trying to explain what's been going on in the Parliament over the last 2 days back to my constituents in the northwest of England. I tried to explain yesterday a little bit about the power relationship between the Council, the European Parliament and the Commission. But we've voted today on who's going to be President of the European Parliament.
Sure.
A little bit disappointed that we didn't get a Green elected, but maybe that was always a bit optimistic. But could you explain to me, please, what's been going on?
Well, I'll try. Because it's always different, of course. I mean, this is now going to be my third term, so this is now my third experience in getting all these elections ongoing at the beginning of the term. But it has always been a difficult game, right? Because it's officially it's the heads of state, so the 28 heads of state. They are obliged to propose a president of the Commission, but it's the Parliament that elects. So there already the complication comes.
Okay.
So because of course the heads of state need to agree amongst each other. So that's these endless meetings they're having most of the time in Brussels. But they also do know that it will need to have a majority in the European Parliament. So then of course you get the play between the interest of nation states, the countries, and the interest of the European Parliament and the political groups.
Yeah.
And that's always the complication with Europe. I mean, sometimes people say it's not democratic. I would say it's complicated democratic because you have to look at the opinions of the countries and the parties represented in the European Parliament. And making that puzzle, what they then usually do is throwing a lot more into the mix so that they can horse trade. That's basically what they're doing. So if they say, okay, we have more or less now, looking at the majority in the European Parliament, we can form a majority with 3 parties, but it's not a very large majority, so maybe we need 4 parties, getting complicated.
And that's where the Greens come in, because
we're
the 4th party.
Exactly, then we would expecting that they would look at us, and they do, but what we notice that at the heads of state level, the Greens are not represented.
Yeah.
They're the only 3 groups being represented. It's the Christian Democrats, the Social Democrats, Labour, and the Liberals. So what happened there, they were starting to horse trade amongst themselves, coming up with a deal which then had to be agreed upon here in European Parliament.
So in a way, we were hoping very much that this would be a 4-group kind of process, and meanwhile, anyway, the Greens have been trying to look at the programme, not just about who's going to do what,
the
positions, but actually what we're going to do as a Parliament and the legislation and what we're trying
because
to
that's
achieve.
Of course now what a lot of people are saying is like, okay, what did they agree now? They agree on the people, but what does that mean on contents?
Yeah.
And I think we as Greens have been saying from the start, no matter what person will be ending up in which position, we need to know what kind of program they're signing up to. And for us, the support for any of these persons will depend on the program. And I think that was a bit too complicated for the heads of state, because for them, making this picture with the different positions, the different countries, different political parties was difficult enough. Then on top of that, also having a program demand, I think that was for them so complicated that they solved it with the 3 political groups and left us a bit out there. But to be very honest, if you now look on what happened, is that of course with such a compromise, no one is really happy, and that the person that is now being proposed for the Commission, the President of the Commission.
And this is the German CDU member Ursula?
Yes, Ursula von der Leyen. She's Minister of Defense and now being proposed as the President of the Commission. But she will need an absolute majority in the European Parliament. That means 376 votes. Now, these 3 political groups together have around 440. So you could say if they all keep the line, they stay together, she will make it. But that was, of course, the test case today when we were electing the President of the Parliament, where also these 3 groups were officially supporting that one candidate, the Italian Social Democrat. But okay, he got elected, but the most votes he got was around 350, which is not enough if you are in 2 weeks going to decide on a commission. So I think now a lot of heads of state are getting nervous because they see that maybe their horse trading and the candidate that came out might not have the required votes in the European Parliament. And I think that's the entire hassle that you see, the nervosity of people, and now all talking to each other, how can we fix this? Because in 2 weeks' time, they can't afford, well, the heads of state can't afford, they feel...
They'll be embarrassed if their proposed candidate
yes.
doesn't actually get through the European Parliament.
Yes, they did 3 night sessions on it, they hardly slept over it, so they are happy to make it to the finish line, and then maybe the European Parliament said, well, sorry, but you didn't do your homework right enough and will be voted down.
So actually nothing's finished until it's finished, and it's not finished yet.
Exactly, and that's but it's always kind of, it's undemocratic. Well, sorry, we are here deciding on the European Commission, and it's a bit the same as in many countries when you are deciding on the ministers.
Yeah.
They're quite often also not elected. I know in the UK they are, but also there, the House of Lords, for example.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people that are not elected, and that's true for the commissioners.
Yeah.
But of course, they need to be elected by the Parliament, and the Parliament is elected by the European citizens. So that the heads of state are trying to come up with all kind of proposals which might fly for them. Democratically, it's only over when the president has the absolute majority of this house.
Right.
So we're not there yet. No, in 2 weeks'
2 weeks' time.
And this is really, and I can really feel that for you it's kind of what's going on here, because at the same time we're voting the vice presidents of the European Parliament.
Yeah.
To be very honest, less important. For some people, very important, lovely title, but the real work is of course going to be in 2 weeks' time when we're going to vote the president of the Commission. Because that will be the leader of the civil servants and will be having the right of initiative of all kind of legislative actions coming forward. So that's going to be the key vote. And today was very indicative that this parliament is not happy with the deal that the heads of state got to, and that they really have to work for the coming 2 weeks to get a majority. And if they want to be more solid, and if they want to be for going for a more solid majority, they will have to start talking to the Greens.
That's really interesting. Thank you so much for explaining
I
that.
hope it was a bit clear there. It's trying to fit the European politics
That's great.
in a very short moment of time, but yeah, this is about the core of it.
Thank you.